Let's review how to measure an angle. This math tool is called a protractor. A protractor is used to measure the number of degrees in an angle. I would be measuring the number of degrees inside of this angle. Before we measure the angle, we need to know a few vocabulary words in regards to the angle. An angle is made up of two rays, and the rays come together at a point which is the vertex. When using the protractor to measure an angle, you need to line up the center of the protractor with the vertex. So this bottom part of the protractor must be touching the vertex. The numbers on the protractor, you can see, go from 0 to 180, and they, in this direction, travel from 0 to 180 going this way, and on the bottom set of lines, they travel from 0 to 180 going in this direction. One of the rays must go through one of the zeros. In this case, it's the one on the bottom. Because this angle is opened this direction, based on where I put the 0, I need to use the numbers on the bottom so I can count up 0, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, and then 60 is here, 70 is all the way up here. So we're between 60 and 70. We can see that right there. And we just have to figure out how far between. The longer line there is 65, and it's about 2 lines before that. So I would say this angle is 63 degrees. Write the number 1 on the back of your study link and put 63 degrees next to it. Now let's try that again. So again, you need to line up the vertex of the angle with the center of the protractor, and you want to make sure that the ray, one of the rays, goes through 0. So you spin this till it goes through 0, and then you follow it around. This time I'm going to use the top set because I'm moving this direction, and I start counting with 0. And it looks like it's approximately 1 click before the number 30 there. It's between 20 and 30, so that would mean that this one is 29 degrees. And because this is an acute angle, that makes sense for an answer. So for number 2, write that on the back of your study link and write 29 degrees. Now when I look at this angle, what I should first notice is that this is definitely an obtuse angle. So when we line up the protractor here, the number that we read for our results should be the higher numbers, greater than 90 degrees, since an obtuse angle is greater than 90. And again, because the 0 is crossing on those top numbers, that should be the result of a top number as I follow it around. I notice that I'm past 140 and I'm between 140 and 150. That looks approximately to be 141 or 142. You can be 2 degrees off in either direction, so either answer is okay. So for the number 3, please write the number 141 degrees on the back of your study link. To show measuring the same angle again, but using the other side, if I turned the protractor so that the opposite ray here was the one going through 0, this time you'll notice that 0 is on the bottom. I'm going to be moving in this direction and following that around. And we can see there that that is going to fall at between the 130 and the 140. If I make this really big, you can tell that there. And you can see that I'm really not at 0, so let's turn that back so that it goes through the 0. And again, I'm between 140 and 150. 145 would be right here, and so then this right here is 1 click past the 140, so again it is 141 degrees. Now we're going to try another angle. This time we have an angle indicator that shows that we want to measure the back side of the angle. So rather than getting the measure for the inside, this part of the angle here, we need to know how far around it is this direction. In order to do that, we need to remember that this point could be the center of a circle. If I went all the way around, it would be 360 degrees. Using this angle, this protractor, to measure the angle, I'm not going to be able to measure the part that was indicated, this outside part, because it is greater than 180 and my protractor only reads to 180 degrees. This is called a reflex angle. In order to measure this with this type of a protractor, I'm going to do the same thing, and I'm going to measure the opposite side than what I'm actually trying to find. So we line this up just like we would to measure the other angles that we've done so far. So I make sure that goes through 0. Again, I'll make it a little bigger just to make sure. And then I'm going to measure the inside. So again, I'm using that bottom set of numbers, and I travel my way this direction. I'm between 70 and 80. And if I were to see where that comes out, it's at approximately 73 degrees. So if that's 73 degrees, and we know again that if I move this away, I could make a full circle around this part of the vertex. If this is 73, the rest has to be the difference that would make up the entire circle. Since we know there's 360 degrees in a circle, if I subtract the 73 degrees, we'd get 287 degrees. Write that number on the back of your study link next to number 5.